All right, everybody. I want to welcome you to another episode of The Shadows podcast. I'm your host, Trip Bodenheimer, and we are wrapping up our American Gladiators series. And what better person to wrap it up with than Lori Fetrick, Ice, as she was known on American Gladiators. Ma'am, welcome to The Shadows.
Thank you so much. I like that intro, just wrapping it up with the main course.
Exactly. And as you can see behind her, Chillin with Ice podcast, we mention it on several different episodes that we've already had up to this point. But definitely encourage all of our listeners, go out there, give her a follow, give her a like, check out her YouTube page. I've definitely become a fan of her podcast, listening to it, sitting down with gladiators. I mean, before we even get started, how cool is it now to have your own podcast and to kind of reconnect with everybody?
Oh my God, it is so amazing. It really is. I didn't think it was going to be so accepted, to be quite honest with you. I didn't think that everybody jumped on. I mean, it's been a great ride so far, and I'm just really excited about more to come. So yeah, reconnecting is just amazing. It gives me an hour to talk with a gladiator
Yeah.
about the gladiators,
Yeah.
because we don't get on
Yeah.
the phone and go, "Hey, what'd you think about the Powerball session?"
Well,
So
no,
it's
I
nice.
I'm excited to have you on here, and we're going to put you through, no pun intended, some icebreaker questions here. And first one for you, we got five of them. First
Uh-oh.
one, a resource recommendation, book or podcast other than your own.
Oh, that's a great one. See, now I understand why my guests go, "Why didn't you tell me ahead of time?" Let's see. I would say podcast. I'm a Joe Rogan fan. I'm sorry. I
Oh yeah.
mean, I think he's awesome. Sometimes he goes off the rails a little bit on tangents, but podcast wise, I'm a Joe Rogan fan. Um, and book wise, oh my God, we just took this book and gave it to my girlfriend's son, and that's oh my God, am I really going to blank out at this moment in the morning? Shit. Hold that
I do
thought.
all the editing, so if you hit a pause, then it's fine. I
Oh, you
crop it
do.
all
Great.
out.
Hold on a minute. April. Hey. Of course, she's not answering. What's the book? It's not The Millionaire's Mind, but it's sorry, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh,
I
Rich
love
Dad
that
Poor
book.
Dad, yeah.
Oh my God, we just handed that over to my girlfriend's 16-year-old son. It was fun to read.
It's a
There's
good
a
book.
there's a few books that I actually do really enjoy. It's been a while since I've actually got to have the time to sit down and read a good book.
It's the biggest thing. I
Yeah,
hate when I start reading something and then life pulls you away and you're like a third of the way through the book.
yeah,
I feel like you have to start
exactly.
over at that point.
Yeah,
All right,
I
next.
love I love any books that have to do with financial and
Mm,
how your mindset goes. And I love everything about that because we're so programmed to think a certain way, and money isn't everything, and money is evil, and blah 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 blah.
mm.
I always say, yeah, the ones that say money is evil, or money isn't everything, I'm like, oh, those are the ones that have never had it before.
Or in debt, big
There
time.
you have it, which we all are.
Yeah. Next question for you. That peeve you have.
Pet peeve. Somebody telling me I can't do something.
I could see that. Just from watching this show and the documentary and stuff, I could see that.
Yeah, don't tell me I can't do anything, because my comeback is an automatic one, and it's like, watch me.
Yeah. Okay, I like it. Music that is a guilty pleasure of yours.
Yes, it is.
What artist?
I am a Journey fan. I will always be a
Okay.
Journey fan. I will
Yeah.
always, I am like the 80s. That is like my go-to. That's my like, if I'm in the car and I want to just feel like bring my mood back up again, it's
Yeah.
like boom, I'll hit my Journey track.
I was actually working out a journey this morning, coincidentally.
See?
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay. Uh, you have a ticket, plane ticket. You can go somewhere you've never been before. Where would you go to?
Fiji
Fiji. Okay.
all day long. I'm an island girl.
Yep.
I love the islands. I've been to Bora Bora. I've been to Tahiti. That was on my bucket list. And after I went there, I was like, okay, the next one is Fiji.
Okay. When do you see yourself going there?
If all goes well, I'd love to go next year. And it's
Okay.
funny because you've got to go within the time frame because they have some super bad weather. So you got to
Hmm.
look at the time. So, well, it's kind of planned all around that.
All right. And final question for you. This has become kind of a staple here. Is dinner for three with three historical figures who are no longer with us. Who do
Oh,
you
no
break bread
longer
with?
with us.
Yep.
Damn. Okay. Um, Believe it or not, Albert Einstein, which is interesting. Everybody's gonna go, why? But it's one of my things. Um, who else would I choose? Dead or alive? Okay, not live, not live, dead, right? As bad as that sounds. Albert Einstein. Who else do I want to choose? Dude, I don't even know besides that. Who
Got to
else?
be a musician.
Oh, Kurt Cobain.
Kurt Cobain would be an interesting one.
Yep.
Bane,
Very,
Einstein.
very interesting.
Oh yeah,
Okay, give me another one. And then give me another genre that I can
sure.
choose from.
Actress.
An actress. Oh shit. So many have passed away, unfortunately, and there's so many damn good ones that I would probably can I go a live one right now for a second?
Yeah, we'll go
I'd
live
love to
on it.
sit down. I would love to sit down and have dinner with Brad Pitt. I don't know why. I just would. I think it would be amazing.
All
I'd
right,
love to
Brad
have
Pitt,
I
Einstein, and Kurt
oh my
Cobain.
God. Yeah, exactly. You like that?
Yeah, that's a good little group right there.
It's pretty
Not sure
eclectic.
what any of them have in common, but
Exactly. They don't, and that's the point.
yeah, you'd find out. All right, well, you survived our icebreaker rapid fire questions. Now I want to actually get into your journey. So I'm curious, what was childhood like for Lori?
I was a tomboy. I was
Mm,
growing up. All I wanted to do is play sports. I wasn't the bookworm. My sister was. My sister was a straight A student. She'd be sitting in the house reading the book. I was like, no, 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 no. I'm outside. I'm playing with the boys. I'm playing hide and go seek. I'm playing tackle football. That was me growing up. So I was in the garage with my dad, you know. He was always building something, he had saws and everything else going on. And I was the girl that was taking apart the bike every probably 4 months and repainting it a different color.
oh wow.
you know and then I remember my dad would get mad at me because every time I repainted it, think about it, the paint would get thicker and thicker and thicker on the bike.
It's not that
So
thick.
exactly. And I had to learn patience, which I never did as a kid. I would always start putting it back together before the paint was dry. So yeah, that was my childhood. I think I had a pretty, I mean, if you could call it normal. I mean, what's
Yeah.
normal nowadays? But I mean, I had a very normal childhood growing up. My dad took us camping, fishing. We grew up we were poor, there's no doubt. My mom didn't work, and it was just my dad. So my mom would make our clothes. And so, but being poor as a kid, I didn't realize we were poor, which was kind of cool
Yeah.
because we just went camping and, that was our travel. And I
Yeah.
didn't know better. My mom was making our clothes. I kind of realized around 11 that this is not right.
Yeah.
Can we go buy something? So, I really did have a great childhood. I did.
What'd your dad do?
My dad was just, believe it or not, worked at like here in California, we have like, DWP and generating high growth stations. So he worked at a company called Edison, and
Hmm.
provided our electrical system. And he worked at the generating plant for, oh my God, probably I want to say 25, 30 years. He was one of the
Wow.
lifers. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
He passed away probably I want to say about 9 years ago. He
I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm sorry, that's okay, thank you. He had lung cancer, but my
Mm.
dad was my dad was the type of guy. Yes, I mean, as a child he was smoking pipes, but then he got into cigarettes. But I don't think that's what caused the lung cancer. I think it was more of like the asbestos and everything in the ceilings. My dad would be the one that goes, oh, I'll climb up in the ceiling and in the attic. Oh, it's fine. He never
It's
took
when
any kind
addicts
of
were like riddled with it.
exactly, never took any
Yeah.
protection or anything. He was just that guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was 69. He didn't make it to his 70th birthday, and he waited. He hated doctors, so he waited, to walk 50 feet and be out of breath, and then went, oh, maybe I should go see, something might be wrong. So, but yeah, that was him.
So speaking of your mom and dad, what's something you do today that you find yourself subconsciously doing and you're like, that's something I picked up from them?
Oh my God, things that I say, I'll say it and go, oh my God, that was just like my mom. you know. My dad, um, he always used to tell me as a kid, never do anything half-ass. That was his thing, don't, and that was his saying. Stop. What that? Why would you do that half-ass? So I noticed myself, every once in a while, if somebody will do something, I'm like, that's so fucking half-ass, So those little things.
Okay. And what were some of your aspirations growing up? Like, what did you obviously didn't think I'm gonna be an American Gladiator one day? Like, what
Yeah,
did you
right. I
think
know.
you were going to be when you grew up?
I didn't know.
Yeah.
All I knew that here's the interesting thing: as a child, I wasn't pushed to go to college. My parents, honestly, very old school, was more like, oh, she'll get married, and then obviously somebody will take care of her, that kind of thing. And so there was no push, but yet I wish there was a push because I was extremely good as an athlete.
Yeah.
And so I would have enjoyed more so if they would have, like, I mean, I was shooting hoops in my backyard with my dad when I was 10, and I was playing softball from the time I was in fourth grade. And I was good. I was good at all these sports. Whatever I picked up, my mom put a tennis racket in my hand. Boom, picked it up like that. I wish that I had had those parents behind me going, okay, now we're going to put her in a direction. But in my mind as a child, I mean, watching the Winter Olympics, the Summer Olympics, I wanted to go to the Olympics somehow, some way in my mind as a child. Um, but obviously you have to start when you're like 10 or 5, I should say. So I never got that opportunity, but still in my head, I kept thinking, okay, so I want to do something in sports and I want to be an athlete and I want to be a pro athlete. So when I didn't see the opportunities kind of happening, and we didn't have that, especially as a female back then.
Mhm.
There was no opportunities for females to go really into pro sports. Pro basketball happened way after I was
It was
long
basically tennis. I mean,
or golf,
yeah.
period. I have those two opportunities, and I called golf the lazy man sport. I mean, again, hindsight's a bitch. I wish I'd had started when I was 10 because I am obsessed with the game now. And I could have seen myself going on the tour. I could have done that. So yeah, it's like when bodybuilding came along, that's when I was like, okay, I can go pro. This is something I can go pro in. And then I was going up the ranks in bodybuilding, hit the nationals, and you have to win the nationals in order to qualify to go to the pro. And now is the year the Gladiators came along.
Yeah. When
So I was
you
like,
mentioned bodybuilding, when was that first love of bodybuilding? When did you? 'Cause I've been working out for 20 some years, and I remember when I first started going, I hated it, and then it just clicks, and you love it. It becomes part of your routine.
I would say probably my first year in my first I would say going up to the first year, it's kind of like I did it on my lunch hour, so I'd go to the gym,
Yep.
or I'd go to the gym before work or at lunch or after work, one of the two. I'd wind up kind of getting it in. And it was probably when I switched gyms. I was going to Bally's. Remember the old
Oh
Bally's?
yeah, yeah. Bally's Fitness. Yeah.
It's like join for $1 a year the rest of your life. Is so funny, that advertisement. But I was going to Bally's, and then all of a sudden I realized, probably about, I'm going to say 9, 10 months in, somebody goes, oh, you need to go over to the gym down the street. And it's called Brignoli's. They're more serious, kind of like workouts and bodybuilders. So I walked in one day, and the girl at the front desk signed me up, and she was a personal trainer. And she goes, you have the genetics, just your simple genetics to be a bodybuilder. And I was like, what's that? you know
Thanks.
so I just, she goes, why don't you let me train you a little bit? I'll do it on the house, it'll be free. I just want you to see where this can go. And I think really at that point in time, when I had her as a coach, it's when I started kind of falling in love with it. And I realized what I could do with my body and how I could change my body just by what I was eating and putting in my body and how I was training my body. It became fascinating to me. And that's when it just, the love came around for it.
What's the best fitness advice you ever got from somebody?
Never quit. It doesn't come overnight. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen overnight, whether it be losing weight, whether it be putting on muscle. I remember one of my coaches, I was training for a show and I was trying to diet down for a show. And I think it's probably around my first show, actually, now that I think about it. And I was like, he goes, just relax into it. How many years did you carry that body weight? It's not going to come off overnight.
Mm.
So you need to think about that. And you're going to have to gradually, slowly go into that. So that was probably the best advice that I got. And I took that with me throughout my bodybuilding career of it's going to happen, but it doesn't happen instantly. You eat a donut. Please laugh at this. You eat a donut or a box of donuts, whatever you're going to do, because that's my downfall, by the way.
No.
You eat a donut, it's not going to show up tomorrow morning. It's not going to show up the next day. It might show up next week. So just keep that in mind.
You said that because when I used to be a trainer, and especially with ladies, it was, I don't want to start lifting because I'm going to get too big
I'm going to
too
look like a
quick.
man.
Yeah. I'm going to look like China if I pick up a weight next week. And it's like, it doesn't happen that fast. But
And not only that, it probably won't happen at all because you're just not into it that much. You're
the
not going to
discipline.
you're not going to put that effort in. You're not going to put the discipline in. And for women, I get the same thing. It's funny. I laugh. I don't want to look like a man. I go, you won't. Don't worry about it.
That 1 hour workout a day will not do it. Trust me.
It
Trust me.
is funny though. They think that.
Well, you mentioned the Gladiators. Talk to us about your audition for American Gladiators, because I heard you smoked like what, 50 competitors or something?
75, by the
75.
way. 75. I don't want to say I smoked them. I'm going to say that I didn't smoke them, trust me, because it went from 75 down to 25, down to 10, down to 5, and then I got the job.
How did you hear about it? Was because I'm sure there wasn't like a Craigslist or a
I know,
YouTube.
right? We didn't have internet. We didn't have cell phones back then. I mean, it was, when I say that, it's funny. It's like we were in the dark ages.
Yeah. It's in the wanted ads.
Exactly. I was down in Gold's Gym in Venice. And I, because I was bodybuilding and I knew of Ray Hollett because she was bodybuilding. And so I just knew of her. I never competed against her, which is really interesting. So I think one day I just, I flipped on the television, I saw the show and I was like, whoa, there's Ray, and of course, when you see someone on television that, no matter what the show is, you're going to watch it, And so that's what I did. I watched the show and I thought, wow, this is intriguing. It's funny. It's stupid. It's like, but I can do this because I'm an athlete. So I went down to the Gold's Gym in Venice and I saw her and I asked her about the show. She didn't want to give me any information. She's like, oh, just watch the show at the end. It has all the information. Yeah, there was no information, by the way. So I did my research. And found out who the production company was. Everything like that. I called them. They said, interesting enough, your timing is perfect because we're having tryouts in like the next 2 weeks. Show up here, kind of thing. And I do believe in energy and the universe and how things happen and how they're supposed to, meant to be to happen if you're prepared. And that is, if I hadn't went down to Gold's Gym in Venice and saw Ray Hollett, I mean, it was just believe it or not, a big, huge coincidence that I saw her after I watched the show on television. And if I'd have never seen her in the gym, I would have never been on the show ever, because I wouldn't have known what to do, So it's interesting how the universe and how the world works. But that was how I got introduced to the audition. And I went to the back lot of Universal and there stood 75 big bodybuilder chicks that I was just like, oh shit. So I just went out and I was myself and just, tried to kick ass, and I did.
When you made it, how did you come up with the name Ice?
That was the year that the Top Gun movie came out.
Yep.
And people were like, wow, you kind of look like Val Kilmer's sister at the time. And they were like joking. They said something like, Iceman. And then somebody else grabbed it and went, what about just ice? And we played around with it for like 5 minutes. And I was like, sold. I can do this. That sounds awesome.
They do the little like that he did after he said his name, Tom Cruise. Have you actually watched his there's a documentary on Val Kilmer called Val,
Oh,
and
no,
they
I
talk
haven't seen
about
that.
his son narrates it because he can't really talk, and it's he videotaped every single movie he did, like with a handheld camera behind the scenes, and it documents his whole life. It's incredible.
Wow. Okay. So you just told me something that I did not know. And that is, so in the new Top Gun movie, he actually does he have throat cancer?
So yeah, he does. So they use I think it's either his son's voice, and now they're working with AI on his voice so that he can
Right.
speak again. But yeah, his son
Wow.
did his voice in the new one.
That's crazy.
Yep. But
That's a
no,
good one.
that's
I'll turn that on. I'll watch it.
it's just called
Um,
Val.
okay. Yeah. Just kind of like Arnold.
Yep, exactly. That's I guess when you're big, it just becomes your first name
I
is
know,
all they
right?
need.
See, I guess
So
when I hit it big, it'll be ice.
yeah, there you go. What do you think was the biggest misconception of the Gladiators? Because when I talked to Jim Starr, he said the thing that really irked him in the documentary was that there was needles laying around everywhere and everybody was all juiced up. What do you think was the biggest
Okay.
misconception that people had?
So here's the funny thing about that. Everybody was all juiced up. They were. I mean, we didn't, it's interesting. Nobody did steroids while we were filming,
It's
but
exactly what he said. Yep.
it's just like anything else. It's the training, it's the dieting. I mean, I've seen ginormous bodybuilders go, I'm not on steroids. I've never done steroids. I'm like, yeah, you're not on them now, and you probably haven't done them this year, but I can guarantee your ass you did in the last 5 to 10 years. So I think one of my things about that whole thing is no, we weren't doing steroids during this show. A lot of yes, off season, there's no doubt. Everybody was getting pumped, everybody was juicing it up. And half the gladiators, not half, but a handful is going to come back and go, why would you put me in that category? Because you need to be in that category and stop lying. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's
It's
like,
not beetroot and creatine.
right.
Yes.
How old are you right now? It's like, what is it going to do? Come and bite you in the ass? Like, oh my God, you did steroids when you were 25 and now you're 60? Who cares? you know? Okay, that was Jim's thing about the whole, steroid thing. And it was bullshit. And it's just so stupid,
Hmm.
literally so stupid. But besides the documentary, I think the whole misconception that I didn't like going through the show was, oh my God, you guys are all rich and famous. We might have been famous, but we are far from being rich, you
That
know?
royalty piece I had no idea that y'all weren't getting royalties off.
Oh, we weren't
I,
getting shit.
I have a
I
Super
mean,
Nintendo game that's got you on the cover
I
and
know. I
probably
know.
got nothing from it.
My first year, on the show, I think my paycheck was $18,000. And that was for doing
Wow.
all 21 shows or something like that. It's just ridiculous. And so we learned the side hustle real fast.
Yeah.
And that is, we filmed for 4 to 5 weeks, and boom, knocked it out. The rest of the year, we were hustling, doing personal appearances and television, whatever we could get our hands on. By the end of the year, my tax return only looked like maybe 80, 85,000. That was
Oh
it.
my gosh.
And so people were just like, so you guys are making so much money. And it's like, yeah.
How much different do you think it would have been with social media around? And then also, I mean, even something that I still think y'all could probably do today and make a lot of money off of, but like Comic Cons and having like a gladiator reunion. How do you
So
think that would have been?
you're speaking the language that we're speaking right now, all of
Mm,
us. And the thing of it is the documentary, the documentary came out in the middle of summer, basically, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Comic Cons are all booked up 6 months to a year in advance. So will you guys see us next year at Comic Cons? Let's cross our fingers that
That'd be
somebody
awesome.
sees some of all these podcasts we're doing. We're all saying the same thing. Book us. We're ready. We want to go. But we can't get into them this year because people are already booked up.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm hoping. And the other thing I'm hoping for is we're contacting anyone and everyone about personal appearances and reunions and stuff like
Hmm.
that. There's a company out of New York I just recently contacted, and they're doing like a small MMA, small venues, 2,600, 3,000 people. That's a small venue.
Yeah.
And they're having like a Comic-Con type of um, meet and greet questions. And I was like, oh my God, this is the company. So I contacted them last week, crossing my fingers that something happens.
That'd be
That
cool.
would be that would be like they would take like 4 to 5 gladiators around to small arenas, and it
Yeah.
would be kind of like a small reunion in a way,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, I see it all the time with movies where they have 10 to 15 people from a certain movie having a reunion. And then, I mean, even when I posted on social media that we were doing a Gladiator series, constant comment was, "It's my childhood. Oh my gosh, that was my childhood. I broke my neck every day to get home from school to watch this." So there's
Everybody
definitely
said
a,
that.
yeah,
There's
definitely
there's a
a
huge
demand.
fan base still. There's a huge
Hmm.
audience. It's like there's the 90 Comic Cons too, the 90 Expos,
Yeah.
which would be perfect. We've contacted
Oh yeah.
them, so it's a matter of someone putting it together, really, is what it comes down
Yeah.
to. Yeah,
Because I see pro wrestlers all the time at Comic
I
Cons.
know.
So
Hopefully in 2024, you'll see us out there in Comic Cons.
that'd be really cool. But
I know.
what was the most rewarding moment from your time as a gladiator?
Honestly, I would say the overall, the rewarding moment was that I'm realizing that I touched a lot of people and inspired a lot of people, and I didn't even know it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I was just being myself, and I'm try to be as authentic as I can when it comes to just people and interviews and everything else. What you see is what you get, and I realize that that actually inspires people.
Hmm.
Whether it be fitness wise, just motivation, whatever it may be. So that's kind of like the moment that I really cherish is just exactly that. What I have gotten to do with people in general is touch them in somehow, some way. If I've touched more than one, I feel like I've done my job.
Yeah, it's
So
I heard something before. It was you may plant the seeds, but you may never see the tree grow.
correct.
And just knowing that, and even when I was talking to Malibu or to Jim, they, excuse me, Darren or Jim, they were both telling me how with their character, it was especially Jim. He said at first he was trying to play the role of
Hmm.
Laser, and then he's like, I'm cutting these promos in the camera the first season I did it, and I'm like, this is not me. And then I guess the producer told him to be himself. It seemed like it was easier for you. Like you weren't really playing a character. It seems like you were just an extension of you with the ice character. Is that fair to say?
It's very fair to say. And I think I came in at the right time because nobody told me to play a character.
Yeah.
So I think they realized at that time before I came in that it wasn't working. The
Yeah.
characters weren't working. Let's just let them be themselves and see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, it's true, man. It was do or die for us when we'd go out for competition. We were really, really just ready to rip your head off. That's how we were. But that
Hmm.
was the fire inside of us,
Yeah.
and that's what they looked for. That's what when they were looking for gladiators, they were looking for that fire. And so I think that my character, yes, was definitely an extension of me. And I think Dan in the Nitro in the documentary summed it up really nice. He'd be like, she came on and then she just rip your head off, but she'd smile and shake your hand afterwards, like good game,
Help you
win or
up.
lose. So it was enjoyable, really enjoyable for me to be myself. And, yeah, there's no doubt, we definitely played up to the camera, you
Yeah.
know, because they wanted us to do that. If you're going to be yourself and you're going to be competitive and have that fire, just play it up a little bit. So it
Yeah.
wasn't like, yeah, good game. It was like, no, that was awesome.
What did you think of the recent documentaries, the 30 for 30 and then the Netflix Muscle and Mayhem?
Let's go with the 30 for 30. It's interesting because I did a review on my podcast on that, and there was a lot of things I was very disappointed in. But on the same hand, I had to realize they didn't have the gladiators to play off of, in
So a
that
lot of them.
documentary. Yeah, they missed out on 3/4 of the gladiators.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because even when the whole thing came up and Johnny Ferraro, the creator, called all of us and said, "Hey, they're doing a documentary about me and I want you to be on it," and we were like, yeah, nobody really knows who you are. So I have a feeling that it's really not about you. It's probably going to be about us. And what are they paying us? Oh, there's no pay. Okay.
Yeah,
let's
it's
go
very
re let's
enticing.
re yeah, let's redo the whole thing all over again, because now we're adults and now we look back and go, we got screwed. And do you think we're going to do this again?
Yeah.
And he was really upset with us, and the word was pissed off at us that we did not do his documentary. Like, we owed it to him.
See, I've heard that it was too much him from a lot of people. I kind of viewed it that way too. The reason I like the Netflix one better is because it focused more on the gladiators as a whole versus they did little slivers like Malibu Story. They did very good. Um, they did Selena, like they did so many
Here's
of
the
them.
thing, though. Here's the
They were only
thing
like two
that
minutes.
I was just going to say, think about the interviews and what they showed. And I mean, a lot of it was talking about Johnny and the creator and how they felt and all that shit. But what most of us, and I know Jim and everybody is in agreement with this, the ones that did Netflix, is they showed them in a very dark light. It was
Mhm.
very dark. It wasn't like, I didn't hear one gladiator, by the way, go, "Oh my God, it was the time of my life. I loved it." Not one gladiator, because they really went on the dark side of it. Even with
Yeah.
Darren, they went on the dark side. I'm not saying dark side. It just wasn't like he wasn't happy. They wanted to make him look like a victim of some sort, some way.
They did that with a
And
lot of them.
yeah, they did that with, I mean, Selena, they didn't do shit with her. I mean, to be honest with you, she's a phenomenal rock climber and actress and all that. And they didn't talk about
It
it.
was the
They didn't,
broken nose, and that was it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Even Dallas, Dallas is a dear friend of mine, and she is an amazing interviewer. And she's full of energy, and she's kind of like one of the interviewers that you got to pull together, because you go squirrel and she's like over here, kind of thing. But even with her interview, she said they were there for like 6-8 hours, and they didn't show anything about her life, the gym. All they wanted to talk about was the feud between the creators.
Which not a lot of people knew about.
It's a great story, but who cares? I mean, if you're going to do an American Gladiator documentary, do a documentary about the American Gladiators, not about the feud, of the creators. So everybody was really disappointed about that. But when the Netflix thing came out, we were just, oh my God, they did an amazing job, and we were so happy with it.
The thing I really liked about the Netflix one was Nitro, especially like Nitro's character on there. You either loved his character or you would hate his character.
Oh yeah.
But even for like the biggest haters out there, I think when you watch it, you really feel for him and you're like, wow, it really see the person behind the
Yeah, but
character and the
Dan cried
struggles.
too much. Jesus, come
He
on.
did.
Did you notice that did you notice something? All the guys cried and not one girl did. All of them did.
Yes, in hindsight, yeah, you got a point.
Jim cried. Dan cried. It's
Well,
just like,
then don't listen to my episode with Jim. Don't do that.
okay.
So
And then I think even Jim and I was like, he got all choked up and cried. I mean, I'm like, come on. And and I've had a couple people say this, different fans, like,
yeah,
oh, all the guys cried and the girls didn't. They're the ones who picked it up, not even me. I was like, oh my God, you're right. Big old babies. And and it was so funny because Dan, it's so funny with Nitro. I love him, but man, sometimes he tries so hard that it's like, that he's like in his, we were laughing about this. I got my notebook right here. he's in his room before shit going, all right, so he's in the mirror practicing. All right, so here's my answer, blah, blah, blah. And he gets that reflection in his voice to where he sounds like he tries to be like this self-help guru, and we laugh our asses about it.
How about his movie he had? Oh. It was
Oh, with
the
Meryl
clip they
Streep.
showed.
Yeah. I don't even remember that. That was so funny.
They
I,
showed the
I
clip, and I was like,
yeah.
"Woo!"
Yeah, it was funny. It's come on. We have been family for the last what, 35, 40 years, to be honest
Man,
with you.
it's cool to see y'all doing stuff on social media together, and because I think
Yeah.
actually because Jim had to I think end a call with you to record with me, and he
I was like,
was
"Oh,
like,
you're the reason why we had to end the call." You're like, "Yes, I was."
"Yeah." He- He's like, "Yeah, I was just talking to her right before we started with this."
Yeah.
So another question for you that I'm really curious. Cool thing about your story is kind of your journey about coming out of the closet.
Mhm.
And you mentioned at 18. I think 18 is when you realized that. Was it around
Mm,
that time?
I was I had thoughts when I was probably like 15, like the first thought was like, what would it be like to kiss a girl? And that was, that's the extent
Yeah.
of it. And then kind of acted upon it when I was around the 16, 17 age to where, had I don't even know if we considered each other girlfriends in high school. We just kind of, hooked up, and then we'd go out on dates with the guys, and we'd hook up at home. And
Did you feel like when you were at the Gladiators, you could be like your authentic, open self, especially with your image on like
here's the funny thing
pictures?
is I was very I was very open. I never
Hmm.
really hid anything. I mean, but we were if you think about it, again, we're going to go back to that time. It wasn't acceptable. You
Yeah,
couldn't, you couldn't walk down this, you could if you wanted to and have every eye on you there was holding hands or kissing or something like that in public. But
completely different time. Yeah,
I was never that girl though. Even
yeah.
today, I have a free reign. I can do whatever I want in public, and I just don't. Every once in a while, I'll grab my girlfriend's hand, or I'll kiss her goodbye or something like that. But it's like I've never been that girl to where it's just like I need everyone to know.
Mm.
I don't care. You
It's a
know.
really good story I talked about on Netflix where it was the guys were trying to hook up with the one girl.
That was just fun. I mean, we had so much fun. It was just a blast. But yeah, it was the Gladiators really were very, very supportive of me.
Yeah.
And they didn't care. I didn't care. The producers cared, you
Yeah, I
know.
so I watched, I'm not sure if you've seen it. I mentioned on one of the documentaries. I watched the one with Wham
Oh, I
on
love that one.
it
I
was
just
great.
recently watched it. I love George Michaels.
Oh, it was
I was
so
a
good.
fan.
But even hearing like how he was like I think it was 1980 or late 70s. And
Yeah.
he's like, "You know what? I think I'm gay." And
Yeah.
but he could not come out that whole
Oh,
time.
yeah. He was a
And
ladies'
just
man.
oh my gosh, but thinking about like mentally probably the struggles that he was
Yeah.
going through with having, and you talk about a true friend. My daughter was like, "Look, Andy, that guy can keep a secret better than anybody else. You need more Andys in your life."
Yeah.
Um,
So
but
let me ask you this. On that, I mean, was that his footage, Andrew's footage?
mhm,
All that footage? I mean, that
I
he
think it was
documented. It was just amazing because I was like, knowing about documentaries going,
so many behind the scenes.
it's like, because I know all that footage that you guys saw on tour, that was all mine. I was the
Was it?
only one that had the handheld camcorder. I'm the
Yeah,
only one who brought one. I don't know why
the
anybody else
big
didn't
bulky one
bring one.
that you had
No,
to.
no, 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 no. We're not going back that far.
Okay, okay, with the
It was
video
the
in it.
normal. Yeah, exactly. No, it was the nice little compact one, kind
Okay.
of thing. But I was the only one who brought one. And I was like, why doesn't anybody else bring a video camera? Let's document this thing, you know?
In
So
hindsight, how brilliant was that to have recorded all that
in
footage y'all had?
hindsight, like you said, I don't know. I mean, what I'm going to start doing though is I'm going to start taking that footage since it is mine and I can do what I want with that. I'm
Mm.
going to start taking little 10-minute increments of all that footage and start putting it up on my YouTube channel.
Oh, why not? Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Especially striking the iron while it's hot right now. What was it with your
Yes.
parents when you finally broke the news to your parents about your sexuality? Did they take it well?
Well, it's interesting you say that. And that's probably a story I've never told before. And you're the first person that asked that question. So good question.
Take that as a win. Yes.
Yes, that's a win. My I was in high school, and I think one of the girls that I didn't really hook up with in the softball league, but yet at the same time, she felt like, I don't know, she had her claim over me or something because she was like the first girl I maybe even kissed. I don't even know. But let's put it this way. I was in high school. I was a senior. And that's when I actually had my very first girlfriend in high school. And she found out about it and she was jealous and she came back out. I came out and it was like, the childish kind of bullshit stuff. All my tires were slashed on my car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I realized, okay, so women are psycho. And then she didn't only stop there. She decided to call my mother. So my mom didn't get to find out from me. She got an anonymous phone call. And
Wow.
so that's interesting. Nobody has ever asked me a question, and that's that story. So I come home. My mom's, by the way, very religious, very
Yeah.
religious. And that's how I grew up, in a very religious family. So my mom pulls me aside and says, I got a phone call and I need to know if this is true. And of course, come on. I was like scared to death. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way.
Your heart's just,
Oh, I think I might have denied it and just went, she's crazy. There's no way, and I just went through the whole denial process. And then I want to say probably within 6 months later, we talked about it again. And it was just kind of like a small conversation. And it was kind of like she became a little bit more acceptable about it. And she was like, you're my daughter. I love you regardless, no matter what. Now I do hope and pray that you marry a man before you die, so you're accepted into God's kingdom. She tells me that. And I go, okay, so what you're trying to tell me is I can be gay my entire life, but at the very end of my life, I got to have a guy on standby so that I can marry him right before I die, and then God will enter me into the kingdom.
she's like, correct.
Exactly. And I was like, all right, good to know. Thank you. So anyway, that's how that went down.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, different times. And
And my
now,
dad and I, to be honest with you, my dad and I never spoke about it.
really?
My dad, we didn't want to, he didn't really want to talk about it, but I could bring my girlfriends over and he knew they were my girlfriends and he accepted them and liked them. He
Hmm.
accepted me. We just never talked about it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Well, what did you do after Gladiators wrapped up? Between basically that filling in that gap of Gladiators ended. I know you had your own fit program down in, was it Orlando? Or
Well, before that happened, I cried. I think I was depressed for a while. It was
was it
interesting
kind of hard
because,
to let go of that
oh
limelight?
God, it was just, well, yeah, yes, it was insane. So when the show kind of ended, we didn't really know that the show was ending at the time, the television show, because we were doing the Gladiator live in Orlando. So we were doing the live thing in Orlando, and when the at that time we knew it was wrapping up. We had heard rumors that we're not going back to filming again. So I actually started looking for an investor to open a gym in the middle of downtown Orlando. I found a location, I found my investor, I got the gym together. So I think that occupied my mind a lot, because it kind of trickled in, meaning, okay, we're not filming anymore. Oh shit, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I tried to keep myself busy. I was still doing the hustle, still trying to get things out there, doing my gym. I was bartending at night, you name it, I was doing it. So the transition was a very hard transition. There's no doubt. I mean, I was bartending down in Orlando at one of the largest country bars at the time. It was called 8 Seconds. And I was behind the bar and people would come up and go, what are you doing here? Talk about an ego hit. Oh my God. It's like, you're Ice from the Gladiators. Why are you behind the bar? Why are you
That's probably
bartending?
the reaction afterwards when it would probably be like, oh wow. Okay. And you
Yeah,
kind of see like the looks and stuff.
yeah, it was very strange,
Wow.
So it was a very hard transition, and I just tried to keep very busy in business and opening the gym, running the gym, and trying to still do appearances and stuff like that. And yeah, it was a pretty difficult. And then I tried to do the I, I'm laughing as I say it. I tried to do the online fitness thing because that's a hard gig to do. That is
Yeah,
so hard to do.
it really is.
Yeah. So
Speaking,
go ahead.
well, no, I was going to ask you, how did the pandemic impact you?
Um, I just thought the pandemic was stupid. I'm one of those. I'm sorry. I'm one of those. At the very beginning, I was paranoid and, just like everybody else, like, oh my God. And then after I realized what was happening, and I just went, God, this is ridiculous. But it was hard. First of all, it impacted me because I couldn't go to the gym. All the gyms closed. So we found this like underground gym that opened up, and the dude was charging like $100 a month when it was really only $30 a month, but he was capitalizing on everybody, going in this gym. And it was just ridiculous. I literally, that time, I'm just like everybody else. It's like, can we just forget about that year,
Yeah.
in a way? But it's so hard to do because every once in a while I still see people walking around wearing masks. So I'm like, it's over.
I went into a store last week and I was told to put a mask on when I went into the store. And I was like, are we really still doing this? And he's like,
Yeah.
yes, mask, please.
Right. And the funny thing is that, I mean, what, 50% of America knows because it came out, oh, the masks really don't work after all. No shit. It's on the back of the box. you know.
Especially when you reuse the same one for 3 weeks.
I know. And I was that rebellious one to where I went on Amazon and found the mask that had like the bling bling all over it, but it was completely mesh. And you could like see your mouth and your nose through it, but it was so bling bling. But I could breathe. And I was like, I've got a mask on, and it was like one of those kind of things. So whatever. It is what it is. It's time, it's people need to move on. Oh, I will tell you this. What impacted me the most on COVID was the 3 weeks before COVID, I auditioned for Glow, Glorious
Really?
Ladies of
Yeah,
Wrestling.
yeah. With
My, yes, I don't know the name. You're going to say it right now.
Allison
So
Brie.
there you go.
Yeah.
And so a week before COVID hit, my agent calls me and says, here's the deal. They didn't want you for the part you auditioned for. However, you're perfect for another part they're bringing back in as a series regular. Are you ready to be famous again? I was like, yes. And he goes, okay, so just hold on. They're going to put you on hold for about a week, and then we're going to go in, and it sounds like it's a done deal. Boom, COVID hit a week later. 6 months later, boom, they canceled the show. Ah,
It's a good
that
show. I like
would
Glow.
have changed my life. If
Yeah.
I would have gotten that role, it would have changed my life.
Oh, I bet. But I mean, who would have known 3 years later you'd be featured on Netflix again?
Well, no, I would have still been on. Well, here's the funny thing. I would have still done the documentary. It had still come around. So I would have had two shows. I would have had Glow and I would have had the documentary. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, I could have been doing Comic Cons. I could have been doing appearances. I would have had another acting gig probably, because once you're a series regular on one thing, other people want you for other things. Completely changed my life. And God went, no, we're going to do something else with you.
Yeah. Well, you're doing something great now with Chillin with Ice podcast. I'm curious, like, what made you decide to dive into the wonderful world of podcasting, and how cool has it been
Oh
to
my
do what you're
God.
doing?
I will give this credit to a very good friend of mine. His name is Curtis Nelson, and he probably won't listen to this, but I'm going to send it to him. I was driving down to San Diego, and I was on the phone with him, and he goes, Lori, and by the way, he works for Joe Rogan. He
Yeah.
actually, he was the manager of a comedy club, and Joe sent him out to Austin and said, we're going to open the club together. So he was used to be around Joe and everything. And he goes, Lori, got to do a podcast. And I was like, Curtis, what am I going to talk about? He goes, I know you. I've known you since you were 25 years old. He goes, everything you've done throughout your life. And he started listing all these things I've done. He goes, you have an endless array of what you can talk about on your podcast. I mean, just from different jobs to acting to gladiators to the cannabis industry to you name it, I've done it. He's like, you got to do this. And I said, okay, Curtis, I'll think about it. He goes, no, you've got to do this. And so that weekend when we were in San Diego, and I was like, what would I even call my podcast? What would I even talk about? What would we even do? And I was on the golf course and we were coming up with, just crazy things like I'm sure you did when you
Oh
first
yeah.
went, okay, I want a podcast. What is it? What do I want it to be about? So my girlfriend at the time literally came up with Chillin with Ice. And I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. What's the show about? And how it came to me is with all my TikTok followers and all my TikTok videos I've done and all the comments that I'm getting on my TikToks for the last 2 years. They're like, oh my God, I didn't know you were funny. Oh my God, I didn't know you had this kind of personality. Oh my God, I didn't know this. I didn't know that. And I was like, do you realize that nobody knows the Gladiators?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
nobody knows who they are behind the uniform.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I went, okay, I'm going to take all the gladiators and whoever else I can get, and I'm going to start interviewing them and let people get to know them personally. Even with the documentary, I mean, they got to tell some stories, but come on,
It's like
7 and
5 minutes.
yeah, I was just going to say, do you realize
Yeah.
we interviewed for 8 hours? How many of those stories landed on the floor?
Mm-hmm.
Tons. So, I mean, that's how it happened. It was just like, okay, I'm going to start telling the gladiator stories and it's going to start to evolve. I'm like you probably. I love listening and telling people's story.
Oh, 100%.
I want to know what makes them click. I want to know where their pivot points are in their life, because everybody has that pivot,
Childhood trauma, all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely. So it is evolving into that.
Mm-hmm.
So even after the gladiators, you're going to start seeing more and more people with stories and inspirations and motivational stories, whatever it may be. So that's where it'll start to go. But that's how the podcast actually came about.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Like I said, I've listened to several of the episodes. You had one not too long ago with the um, not so well known females that you had on there. There was 3 of them that were on what Siren.
Okay,
Um,
so that was okay. So nobody talked about Siren when she passed away on the documentaries. Nobody talked
yeah.
about Thunder when he passed away on the documentaries. Siren was a huge gladiator during gladiator days.
Mm-hmm.
Thunder was a huge, asset, and his story is amazing.
30 for
And then
30 did him dirty.
they did do him dirty, and that's why I wanted to bring on Kathy Sasson, which was his girlfriend during the tour. And that's why we did that podcast, because she was perfect for both of those. She was best friends with Siren and she was actually married to Thunder.
Yeah.
And they brought her on as a temporary gladiator. So I was like, what better person to tell their
Oh
stories?
yeah. But it's great. Like I watched the 30 for 30. I got connected with Electra and I listened to your podcast with her. And like you said, the amount of content and the conversation that y'all had versus the information that they gave on her, which was basically a broken nose and she was done. Uh, it was easy. So it was. I definitely encourage our listeners to go check out your podcast, not just the audio version, but your YouTube channel because it's pretty cool. You get to sit down and convert. Y'all are like all in California, by the way.
No,
It's
we're
like
actually
every
not. I wish we were.
really.
I mean, yeah, because more of them would be in the studio, but a lot of them are on Zoom. But I also wanted to do the video because I wanted people to see what we look like now,
Yeah. Yeah.
versus back in the day. And so I think the last gladiator standing that will be on my podcast will be Nitro. He has not done my podcast yet. I
That'd be a
don't know
good one.
why. I don't know why, but it's interesting. I've asked him like 2 times. He's like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm like, what are you getting ready for? you know?
Well, you said he's got to go over his script.
I guess so. I'm not quite sure, but it's like, so the second time I just went, I'm not asking you anymore. If you want to
Yeah.
come on, you can tell me when you want to come on my podcast, but that's done. I'm not going to chase your ass, you know? So, yes, he's the last standing gladiator on that, but yeah, I'm really happy that everybody's really opened up. And as far as God, who's here in Cali? The only ones here in Cali, to be honest with you, is, Tower, Nitro, myself, Zappa's in Tahoe.
Lectures
So
there.
yeah, Electra's. I think Electra's in. Is she in Tahoe now, or she's in Malibu? So she was close enough to come down to the
Malibu.
studio. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she was close enough to come down. Tower was close enough to come down. Saber.
Malibu is in California.
I'm gonna get Malibu there. Saber just did my podcast, which I love that, man. I mean, I had such a blast doing. You need to contact Saber. Very, very cool.
Oh yeah.
So he came into the studio, but yeah, a lot of them are on Zoom, which is, thank God we have Zoom nowadays.
Oh
You
my
know,
gosh. I
yeah,
mean, that I would say is the silver lining from the pandemic is that I
yeah.
didn't know what Zoom was before that happened.
Nobody did.
No. And the fact that, I could sit here and talk to Ice on Zoom is
Yeah, it's
incredible
pretty amazing. And I just got done recently interviewing Linda Murray, which was an 8-time Miss Olympia. I mean, she was like, it's interesting because you have your, like, the people that you go, oh my God, I really want them on my show.
yeah.
She was one of them that she was kind of like, I looked up to her, the whole bodybuilding thing.
Yeah.
She's an Olympia 8 times. It's like, how did you get there? What did you do? How did you stay? And as you know, an hour just goes like that.
Oh,
You
it
know,
does. How cool is that for you with the stature you've had and currently have with this revamp of Netflix and everything to have those interviews with people that you were like, oh my gosh, to sit down with this person would be so
oh,
cool.
so cool. It's so amazing. And I feel so blessed and lucky that people are accepting, coming on my podcast where I can sit down and talk with him. I mean, if
Yeah.
I weren't Ice, I could never sit down with Linda Murray, 8-time Miss Olympia, and get an interview with her.
Oh yeah. The email would be like, thanks, Lori.
She'd
Okay.
be like, "Are you kidding?" She wouldn't even say thanks, Lori. She'd go
Yeah.
next. you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I want to get some people on there. I want to get Corey Everson. I want to get, I have a bucket list that it would just be so cool to get people on the show. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to where it's going. I really am.
Speaking of what, you sell some merchandise too, like that shirt you're
I
wearing.
do. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
noticing that. Here we go. OG Gladiator. Boom.
Got the actual Gladiator shirt on there too, which
Oh, I know. I'm gonna get in trouble for that one.
I'll order one. I actually, when I get to
So it's like
California, I'm
that's
gonna order one.
thank you. It's like limited time. It's like, because I'm gonna only do it for a little time before I get a little. You can't do that.
Save a large. Save a large. I will order one
Save a
when we get
large,
there.
exactly.
I just don't have
So
a shipping
yeah.
address right now.
Okay, so it's Ice T-shirts. So it's ICETEE shirts. I had to get kind of creative with the name on it, but icet-shirts.com. And yeah, I have like a lot of my gladiator photos on there. I've got some OG gladiator stuff and just some fun things on my store. And I've really had a great time, and as far as like designing, and I've had other people send me designs, which is cool. And I just went, let's do it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. Yeah. I mean, I'm
Well,
not getting rich and not making a fortune out of it, but it is a lot of fun to do,
yeah.
because I've learned that in the t-shirt industry, I don't carry inventory. No, it's print on demand. So it makes it easier in that way, because I tried to do a t-shirt line probably like 25 years ago, and I ordered all these t-shirts. I mean, I'm trying to give them away now, like, garage selling. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that was a mistake.
I had a Shadows podcast coffee for a while, and it sold very well. I guess that was a unique thing to do, but my goodness, did I order way too much?
See, do you have
Yeah,
coffee for the rest of your life?
yeah. I've learned that you can freeze coffee pretty good. So can't
That's
tell you last time I bought
awesome.
some Starbucks.
Can you send me some coffee?
I could send you some coffee. Yeah. No, I have plenty of coffee.
That's
Well,
so
so
funny.
next question actually, last couple questions here. What's
Okay.
next for you?
What's next for me? I'm going to definitely say to grow that podcast, to just do as much as I can with the podcast. I want to host. I mean,
Mm,
I want to get paid to do podcasting. I want to host something,
yeah.
commentary. I don't care. Put a microphone in front of me and I am comfortable and very happy. So this is where, some of my, talking with my agent and manager, it's like, okay, so what shows out there can I host? What's coming up? And there's tons of them. Think about it. How many streaming channels are out there right now? There's got to
Oh
be
yeah.
something. I have some people sending me some scripts as far as acting. So that's still definitely there. I'm just having a lot of fun right now with this. But, personal appearances, acting, podcasting, hosting, commentary, whatever is in that genre, I'm there. So
Yeah.
that's hopefully, and it's interesting because I'm in the middle of the hustle right now. I feel like I'm smack dab in it. I don't know what's going to take or grab. I don't know. Maybe nothing will. Maybe they all will. Who
Yeah.
knows? And that's the
It's good to have
exciting part right
options.
now. Yeah, it's very exciting right now.
When all is said and done, when your name is brought up 30, 40 years from now, what do you want people to say about you?
She was no bullshit. She was authentic. She was herself. She was not afraid to be herself. That's what people loved. I inspired people just in many aspects of life, whether it be fitness, whether it be yourself. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Love yourself for who you are. Um, I think that's what I want them to remember about me.
Yeah. Well, I can go ahead and tell you right now that we are wrapping this episode up, and that the
I
three
can put my
men that I
glasses
had on,
on. See you.
there you go. The the three men that I had on the show all cried. No tears from your eyes.
Mm.
So just like the documentary,
See how they
you read
are?
it. Yeah, I said,
Bunch of big soft babies they are.
but this has been incredible. What final comments do you have for the Shadows listeners out there?
You know what? I just want to say thank you, honestly. Thank you for having me on your show. Thank you for all the listeners, the support. Thank you for being a fan. As far as either you are a Gladiator fan, or maybe you'll watch the documentary and become a Gladiator fan.
Mm,
Kind of thing. So I'm very grateful in this time of my life. I think what's happening is we're being very present in the moment, and we're very grateful and thankful is what's happening. So that's what I have to say.
well, I can't thank you enough. And folks, I want to thank all of you who've gone on and left some feedback, and definitely take time, head over to the shadowspodcast.com, Spotify, Apple. We have the links on there to leave us a review. She can probably tell you these reviews help us podcasters big
Oh,
time.
they do.
So please take 2 minutes out of your time, go on there, leave us a review, let us know what you think. And until next week, we'll see you on another episode of the Shadows Podcast.